This is Teresa Weatherspoon, better known as Teaspoon, and you're watching Real Fans, Real Talk.
Live from the can. By the can.
This is Real Fans, Real Talk. Real fans, real talk. We as real as you thought. Real fans.
What's going on? Welcome to another live edition of Real Fans, Real Talk. We back in full effect, man. It's Monday night. It's time to get to it. Got some things going on in the sports world. A little injury, you know what I'm saying, went down, but we're going to be all right. We're going to bounce back from that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things been going down in the NFL. Some transactions being made. A couple of quarterbacks on the move. A couple of wide receivers on the move. Somebody just got released. A big name wide receiver just got released today as well. But we're going to get into all that in just a minute. Let me introduce my brother, my co-host, Eric Sanchez, a.k.a. Legend in Two Games. What's going on, man?
It's really good, bro. You already know what time it is, man. We got NFL free agency getting started. March Madness about a week away from really getting going. I know the conference championship games is going on now, but conference tournament, I should say. But we got so much to get into. NBA, obviously, we got about, 2 weeks left? It's time to get to it. About 2 to 3 weeks left.
Yeah, it's coming down to the wire, man. Oh man, you know what? Yeah, I got before we gonna start. I'm gonna go with this NFL question, but I do got to say this really quick, man. I'm hurt right now because I just saw Garrett Cole gonna have Tommy John surgery.
Yeah,
he's going to miss the entire 2025 season, and that really sucks for us because we made so many great moves this offseason, but to lose our ace right now is. And to know he won't even be back for the season is just crazy work. But you got to take the good with the bad. Let me start off. Shout out to Ron Charles, longtime supporter of the show. Do we like DK Metcalf in Pittsburgh? DK Metcalf, any place is a good look. But I don't know what's the quarterback situation going on. Going to be in Pittsburgh to start the season. So that's the real question. Because we still got the Russell Wilson rumors swirling where he's going to be, and then we don't know what's going on with the backup quarterback over there as well. Fields.
Well, Fields signed today. Fields signed with the Jets today.
Okay, so we really don't know the quarterback situation. It
looks like it's going to be Russell, or unless they make a move on draft day and move up.
Yeah. So, but again, DK Metcalf, one of the best wide receivers in football. He's been one of the best wide receivers in football for the past couple of years. So, any spot that he would have landed was going to be a good move. Now, if we're talking about, as a Ravens fan, obviously, no, I don't want nobody going to Pittsburgh. But for the Steelers, yes, that's a good move. They needed a legitimate wide receiver. They can put him alongside of George Pickens. Now they got the legitimate 1-2 punch. They got a decent running game with their two running with their combo running backs. So now they just got to figure out the quarterback situation.
It's been the biggest question in Pittsburgh since Big Ben retired. Who's going to play quarterback for them? And I love DK Metcalf. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I think he is truly one of the top 10 receivers in the game. But I don't like him in Pittsburgh. I don't like the move at all. To me, it made no sense. First, you give up a second-round pick. I highlighted last week, you could find a lot of great talent in the draft. And the conversation we had last week centered around Deebo Samuels going to the Commanders, which I love that trade because they had given up a fifth-round pick. You give up a fifth-rounder for somebody as productive as Deebo, it makes sense because you're not going to probably find that type of value in the draft. But to give up a second-rounder for DK when we see every year quality receivers go in the second and third round, and then to turn around and give him the massive extension, as you mentioned, without having any clarity at quarterback. Justin Fields signs today with the Jets, so it looks like it's going to either be Russell Wilson or they're going to explore potentially a veteran, maybe Aaron Rodgers in the mix to go there because we know his name has been linked to a lot of different teams as well. But unless they shore up the quarterback position, the weapons aren't as explosive or as attractive as they seem on paper because, yes, him and Pickens is a very good 1-2 combo. Freiermuth is a good tight end. Jalen Warren and Najee Harris are good running backs. But if you ain't got a quarterback that can execute the offense, they just look good on paper. So for me, I don't like the move until they figure out the quarterback situation.
Shout out to Imani. I see your Lakers question. We're gonna get to that when we start talking NBA, but we're gonna get through this football because there's a lot of moves being made. Free agent frenzy is amongst us right now. How can Josh Allen make this deal worth it for the Bills? Well, this is another team shoot. They might have should have been looking into signing DK Metcalf or one of these other wide receivers that was on the move. Maybe even the Cooper Kupp, who was just released by the Rams earlier today. Um, so I don't know, man, because when your quarterback is making that much money, it makes it sometimes harder for the team to lock in top talent at the the receiver positions. So it's a tough one. I don't know, what they're gonna do about Amari Cooper. They got a quality, I would say 2 and 3 receiver in Buffalo, but yeah, they do need to make some moves. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I have to restructure this deal or something and see what they can do.
The way he makes this deal worth it for the Bills, I mean, the obvious is to say go win the Super Bowl. But outside of winning the Super Bowl, I think he just got to keep playing the way he's been playing. Josh Allen has been phenomenal. He was the MVP of the league this year. And I think he's done everything in his power to keep the Bills competitive. We just saw it this last year. They lose Stephon Diggs, and he doesn't miss a beat. He has a great season. So I think he just has to be himself, and everything else will fall in line. Now, you are right. They got to go get him a true number one. They're hoping the development of Keon Coleman, who was their first-round pick last year, develops into a true number one. There are a lot of quality veteran receivers on the market because Cooper Kupp, now with Devontae Adams going to Los Angeles, there's rumors that Cooper Kupp is going to be either released or traded. So he would be a great addition. That's the type of receiver they probably want, a true possession guy who could work the slot for Josh Allen. But in terms of the contract itself, I think it's a win-win. Josh Allen has proven his worth in this league. I've been on record as saying Josh Allen to me is a top 3 quarterback in the game, and he's being paid like it now. And if you're the Bills, he just showed you he could do it without big-time weapons. So now you get the opportunity with this 6-year extension, you get the opportunity now to focus on building the pieces around him. And you're not in a situation like the Cowboys were last year where they had to give Dak his money and they couldn't do anything else. Now, if you're the Bills, that's taken care of, and we can get to the business of adding pieces.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, he definitely deserves it. He earned every penny of that. As you mentioned, bringing in that first MVP this season, but even prior to winning the MVP, Josh Allen has been. I don't think you could put him outside of the top 5 within the last 5 years. Realistically, so he most certainly is worth it. But again, now it's up to upper brass to figure out a way to bring in some more key guys, whether it be through the draft or if they can maybe get one of these older number 1 wide receivers like a Cooper Kupp at maybe somewhat of a discounted rate. But that's for them to figure out. Shout out to Tyson. Seahawks give Sam Darnold a 3-year, $100 million deal. And I'm not clapping for the Seahawks. I'm clapping for Sam Darnold,
right?
Because he earned that paycheck. And this is someone who, similar to what we saw with Geno Smith a couple of years ago before he got his deal from the Seahawks. Somewhat of a journeyman in the league, someone who was a first-round draft pick, didn't really pan out, at his previous locations with the Jets and a couple other places, that he was at. But went into Minnesota this past season after the injury of their rookie stepped up. Obviously he had the help of maybe the best wide receiver in football and maybe even another top 10 to 15 wide receiver in a really good running game. But when you go out there, you ball out, you earn a paycheck like he did, 3 years, $100 million, much deserved. Big shout out to Sam Darnold. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Well-deserved. He played well. He went into a situation with Minnesota where people doubted him, and he earned this paycheck. And for the Seahawks, it makes sense. I don't think this is a move that moves the needle in terms of like getting closer to a Super Bowl, because we saw what Sam Darnold was towards the end of the year last year and how badly he played in the last game of the season and then in the playoff game. So could he be a guy similar to what he looked like last year that can help you get to the playoffs? Yeah, I think he's established that part of his game. But for the Seahawks, I think overall this is like a few moves combined that have just been quality. Because is he a massive upgrade over Geno? I don't think he's a massive upgrade over Geno, but they were able to get a second-round pick for Geno. And now the Seahawks find themselves, they got the 18th pick in the first round. They got, with the new picks that they just added on from the DK trade and from the Geno trade, they've got 5 picks in the top 100. So they cleared some cap space, right? Because they also cut Tyler Lockett. They cleared some cap space. They got the running game. They got Smith and Jigba, the receiver. So they got a couple weapons. Like you said, it's not quite Minnesota. Obviously, you're not going to have Justin Jefferson with you. That's the biggest difference, of course. But
or DK, because he's out of there.
Right. Right. That's what I'm saying. You're not going to have the same weapons, but now they have these draft picks that they can kind of retool and keep themselves competitive. And that division is going to look a lot different now. We know that because the Rams are probably a playoff team. The question was posed last week. I don't know if the 49ers, if their window is officially closed, but we expect them to be back in the mix. So for Seattle, this is a move that keeps you in the mix, but also gives you a chance to retool. So I like what Seattle's doing this offseason.
Exactly. Now, while we're talking about Seattle, I do want to talk about Oakland, who has, Oakland, Las Vegas, the Raiders, who have the number 2 pick in the draft. They did make the move and bring over Geno Smith, who's going to be reunited with Pete Carroll. My question is now, if you have that number 2 spot, because I would say, at that point, there's going to be a plethora of guys available, whether it be Abdul Carter, the defensive end, whether it be Cam Ward, whether it be Shador, whether it be Travis Hunter. If you're the Raiders, where do you go with that second overall pick?
My fault. They don't have the second. They got the 6th overall. So they're in the mix if somebody falls, because there's already been rumors that Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter will go 1 and 2 in some order. With the Browns back Myles Garrett, you wonder if they would still go defense, because the early indications were that if the Browns could have traded Myles Garrett, they were absolutely going to try to take Abdul Carter if he was at number 2. And then so it becomes, what does Tennessee want to do? I really think Tennessee is going to pass on a quarterback. And that's not against Shador or Cam Ward. I just think they have so many holes offensively right now that they know bringing in a young quarterback probably isn't the best thing for them. You saw Will Levis, not to compare Will Levis to the guys that are coming out now, but you saw how badly poor Will Levis struggled last year because they didn't have O-line, because they didn't really develop the running game. And so to bring in another young quarterback into that mix, I don't think is the best scenario. But if you're the Raiders, if there's a quarterback there, I think you take him. If it's Shador or Cam Ward, I think you take him. Geno is a placeholder. Nothing wrong with that. Geno is a proven veteran who can win you some games and make you respectable. But Geno isn't your future. So if you get a chance to take Ward or Shador, I think you still take him at number 6.
Now, let me ask you this, because there's a good chance that neither one of those guys will be available. There's a good chance Travis Hunter won't be available. If you are the Raiders, do you go Alshon Gentry, who is somewhat of a generational talent at running back, because you have Geno, who's a very serviceable quarterback. You have, that young fella out there playing tight end. He might be top 5 right now at the tight end position.
Correct.
Do you draft running back at that position at the number 6 pick?
I would. Pete Carroll has always said he loves the physicality and the running game. That's what he brought to Seattle with Marshawn Lynch. That's his identity. So I think if you're the Raiders, as you mentioned, you want to still bring in generational talent and good young talent to build around. And Gentry would, I think, be a perfect fit for them, because you want to recreate your identity as a Raider team. You don't have the outside pieces to think that you could throw the ball up and down the field. Even with Geno Smith, you don't have those weapons. So why not go get the running game that can help your quarterback, and go get the running game that'll also help your O-line a little bit. And you develop this identity, which is ultimately what Pete Carroll has always been rooted in. So if the top guys that we talked about, right, Abdul Carter is not going to be there. I don't think Abdul Carter goes any lower than 3. I don't think Travis Hunter goes any lower than number 4. And I think at least one of the quarterbacks will be off the board before then, because I just don't see the Giants allowing any quarterback to go past them. So if Gentry's the guy, I think it's a smart move by the Raiders to go that route, and I think it would make perfect sense for them.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of thinking that as well because at drafting at 6, I don't see any of the big four still being on the board. Obviously, that being Abdul Carter, Cam Ward, Shador, or Travis Hunter.
Hmm.
And Ashton Genty may be, I mean, the right there with those, well, not even maybe, he is right there with those guys. And he is somebody, when you're talking about you know, a Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. He's along the lines, what I'm saying, as far as talent wise with those guys. So if you have a chance, if you're the Raiders and everybody else is pretty much gone at that point, I like that. I like the pickup for the Raiders. I think he'll be a good pickup for them, and he'll really help that running game, that offense out. Period. A lot. Obviously, he's gonna help
I
the running
agree.
game. Offense as a whole, he'd be a huge help for them. So yeah, I would go with Genty at that pick.
And also keep in mind, we just saw a resurgence from the running back position, not just Saquon and Derrick Henry, but you saw Aaron
Uh-huh.
Jones and Josh Jacobs, what they did and the
Yes,
impact they had on their team. So I think we're starting to see this resurgence of running backs and what they can do for your team.
exactly. You mentioned Justin Fields earlier, 2-year, $40 million deal with the Jets. Uh, I, I just I just be so confused sometimes by the Jets and the things that they do. Um, you didn't have the offensive line to protect Aaron Rodgers. You go get Justin Fields, who obviously he can move, but he needs an offensive line to protect him as well because he wasn't throwing the football in Chicago. He wasn't putting up no gaudy numbers like that. Obviously, he started off, well in Pittsburgh, but then we know Russell Wilson, once he came back with an injury, took that starting spot. And again, this is nothing against Justin Fields because I think he's a very serviceable quarterback. But for the Jets, I mean, obviously, I mean they can go O line in the draft, but again, they really need an offensive line. So I just didn't understand the move for Justin Fields right here. Obviously, they need a quarterback, but I, yeah, I don't know.
I think what was presented to Justin Fields was that he was going to be the starter. And as opposed to him having to compete for it, the Jets are going to hand him the starting job. Aaron Glenn is a first-time head coach. I expect him to want to establish the identity of this team, and I think that identity is going to be rooted in their running game. And so Justin Fields, we know that's one thing he can do as a quarterback. He's not an accurate passer, but you can run the ball with him, and you can do some gimmicky type stuff with him back there. So I think that's what this really rooted in. The Jets have the 7th pick. We talked about picks and who could fall where. Obviously, we don't expect any of the big four to be there at number 7 unless something drastically changes. I don't think the 2 quarterbacks are going to be there. I don't think the 2 best defensive players are going to be there. And we don't think Genty's going to be there. And they still probably wouldn't even take Genty anyway. They've got a running back already in place. So this is a situation where you bring in Justin Fields. You're going to try to draft and beef up the O-line a little bit around him. And really, he's just a placeholder as well. But for Justin Fields, because he's so young, he's hoping to have a resurgence similar to what Sam Darnold had last year with Minnesota, where he kind of reestablishes himself in the league and proves he can be a starter. And this gives him a 2-year opportunity. So I like it for Justin Fields. I understand it for the Jets. Is it the best move for the Jets? No. I would have liked to see the Jets probably be a little bit more aggressive to try to bring in a proven veteran quarterback. But I understand this. Again, this is just a guy who can hold the spot until they figure out what to do at that position.
Absolutely. Let me see here. Let me go to Miguel. Who had the best start to NFL free agency? I mean, there's a couple teams that did really well. I mean, the Steelers getting DK Metcalf, even though they don't necessarily have a quarterback, but I mean that's a big pickup for them. The Seahawks getting their quarterback right back after sending Gino out, getting Sam Darnold, who's coming off having the best season of his career. I think they did pretty well for themselves. But I'm actually, Eric, I'm gonna go with your guys. I love the Shavaris Ward pickup for your Colts.
I do too.
I thought that was a big move for them, to bring in one of the better quarterbacks in this league. Is an area where they definitely needed some improvement. So I would say the Colts right now.
I thought the Colts have done well for themselves because not only bringing in Ward, we also brought in Cam Bynum, who was the safety of Minnesota, and he led the league in takeaways last year. So obviously the Colts are putting an emphasis on defensive players who can create havoc and create turnovers, and that's what you get with both those guys. So I do like it. But I'm going to say, for me, I think what the Commanders has done has been beautiful. To be able to get Debo for the 5th and then to be able to get Laremy Tunsil today to shore up their left tackle spot, like you knew they had to bring help to Jaden Daniels, and now you did that. You protect the blind side and you get them another weapon on offense. So far, what they've done has been great. And mind you, they've been able to do it without giving up a lot of draft capital. So they can still be very active on draft day to fill up that roster because they do have some holes on defense. But I like what they've done in terms of a team that was already a playoff caliber team and then adding really good talent around their guys.
Yeah, I do like the Debo and the Tunsil pickup because Tunsil's been very good, on the offensive line. So I do like, I would say the Commanders did a great job to start the NFL free agency. Let me see, where do we go from here? We can switch over to the NBA right now. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna start with Brandon Chambers' comment right here. I want to start with this one. Give me your All NBA first teams right now. I love this question.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Clearly at the center position, there is no other center in basketball right now. So clearly that one goes to Jokic. Like I don't think you gonna go against the grain on that one, Eric. I think we both can kind of agree on that one.
Right.
Then I'm gonna say Tatum. At one of the forward spots. I'm actually gonna say Braun at that second forward spot. Now I know because obviously we're gonna talk about the injury to Braun. He's gonna miss about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and that may affect him being first team. I'm sure he'll still get an All NBA spot. But if you're asking me right now, when the Lakers are in second place, and during the stretch that they've been on, AD was out, missed a couple of games before he got traded. Luka was out, so I gotta put Braun in that second forward spot, and then I'll go with Shea. Obviously, I don't think there's any guard in basketball having a better season than Shea, and I'll go Donovan Mitchell. What the Cavs are doing, you got to give them their props. Playoffs is a different animal, but we're talking about right now. So that would be my 5 right there.
I completely agree in the backcourt, Shea and Donovan. I think people overlook how good Donovan Mitchell has been this year. He should be first team All NBA. Though I think there's a couple guys that can get honorable mention. I think Cade Cunningham has been great. I think Steph has been great. I think Jalen Brunson has been great. But Shea and Donovan would be my pick. Joker at center is the most obvious. If Wemby doesn't get hurt, maybe it creates a conversation.
Yes.
But I still think Joker gets that's not at center. And then the forward spots gets tricky because I think Braun has played great. I wouldn't put him at first team or NBA. I think it's a combination. I think Giannis is deserving. So I would put Giannis. I really think Karl-Anthony Towns should get it over Jason Tatum. But I can understand Tatum getting it. So I'll say Tatum, Joker, Giannis, with Shea and Donovan as All NBA first team.
I'm not even mad at Towns at one of those spots. The problem is where I feel like, because I think we see Brunson and Towns on the second team.
Yeah, second or third team. Yeah,
because a lot of times with the voters, they're gonna look at the records.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And Boston is ahead of them in the standings, so they're probably gonna go Tatum if you could argue who's the best player on that Celtics team, but Tatum is
Tatum is the guy, though. Yeah,
yeah,
Tatum's the guy.
you know what I mean. So yeah, but I do believe that Brunson and Towns will be definitely second team, no debate. Like they shouldn't be no lower than that because what they've done this season, they for when people questioning that trade at the beginning of the season. Like I had people arguing with me, oh well, Randall and Towns, they damn near doing the same thing out there. And I'm just like, what? Like what? And this is a trade that I've talked about for a couple of seasons prior to them actually making that trade happen. But what they've done, that dynamic duo, you got to give them the respect. But yeah, and then like I said, other than that, if Braun doesn't get, because obviously because he's gonna miss these games, then I'm not mad at one of those other guys, Giannis, getting it. But I do think Braun will be on one of the other two all NBA teams. But he is deserving of a spot, I believe, on the first team, especially if he doesn't get hurt at this point.
Yeah, like I said, I think you could make the argument for. I just think it's tough because I would, if we're gonna make the argument for Braun, then the argument is obviously much stronger. I think for Tatum, Karl-Anthony Towns, Giannis, of course, and then even AD. And shout out to Scoop Hoop. I think AD, if you're gonna make an argument for Braun, AD's got to get an argument as well for that spot over him.
Well, not because AD's gonna miss too many games at this point.
Yeah, that is true.
That's the thing. We throw Scoop comment though. If you got Braun first team, but didn't AD really carry the team the first part of the year, Braun is in a month stretch has played well, but the first team, yeah. So the thing with that is, right, you're absolutely right. AD did get the train running, however, they were still lingering around 6th or 7th, right? These last 2 months, Braun done had them, climbing that ladder to the point where they're, legitimately the number 2 seed right now. Obviously, things will most likely change. Let's Luka start working that Luka magic, and they still ball out these next week and a half. Which hey, listen, Luka is one of the ones, so I ain't going, totally rule that out. But but again, record wise, like I said, they were lingering around 7th, 6th, sometimes in the play-in, and over these last couple of months, and it's weird. What have you done for me lately, league? And Braun has been the catalyst that had them pushing up to second place. Let me go to Tyson's comment here. Top 5 point guards of all time. Is Magic Johnson still number 1? Yes, he is. Until further notice, he's still number 1, man. I'm sorry, I can't and I love Steph. Steph is still now the best shooter and will be the greatest shooter of all time until further notice. I think he was looking at 4,000 threes?
But the accolades
are
ridiculous at this point for Steph.
Yeah, but that's one thing. That's it's not just about shooting. You know what I mean? When we're talking about the rank, so I can't put Steph ahead of Magic right now. He would still have to do more for me to surpass Magic.
I've always said I don't view Steph as a point guard, just because he doesn't initiate most of their offense. So to me, Steph is more of a shooting guard. Magic initiated offense. Everything flowed through Magic as a traditional point guard. Steph has played off the ball a lot, and you see it now. That's really why Draymond is so valuable to them, because there aren't many other guys who could initiate that offense and allow Steph to come off screens and pin downs. So Magic to me is still going to be number 1. And no particular order. Magic's number 1, but after Magic, I would put J. Kidd, John Stockton, J. Kidd, John Stockton, Oscar Robertson.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, no particular order.
Yeah.
And then, and again, I'm excluding Steph because I don't view Steph as a point guard. So I'm keeping Steph out of this list. Magic, Oscar, Stockton, Kidd, and for the 5th, I'm trying to think who would I go with the fifth. Because I'm not the big Chris Paul. I'm not the biggest Chris Paul fan.
Did you say Isaiah?
Isaiah gets it. You're right. Yeah, Isaiah would be that spot.
There you go. Shaq says Steph Curry should be in the GOAT conversation. Should he at least top 10? I think he'll finish his career in the top 10. But personally, for me, I like, and I've said this before, I'm very big on elite two-way players. So for me, Steph couldn't get into the GOAT conversation because he wasn't an elite two-way player. And when you look at the other guys that are in that conversation, and I guess the big three would be LeBron, MJ, and Kareem, all three of those guys were elite two-way players. So for me, no, Steph couldn't be in the GOAT conversation.
I would say this. No, he's not in the GOAT conversation, right? In order to be the GOAT conversation, I think you got to be number one and number two all time at your position at the very least. As a point guard, maybe some people might have him as number two. I don't think so. Like I said, as a shooting guard, he's definitely not number one and number two. So that, to me, kind of eliminates you. Could he be in the top 10? Absolutely. He could be in the conversation. I think where Shaq's comment goes off course a little bit is, if you say he should be in the GOAT conversation because he's one of the most, I agree with that. I think there are very few guys that have changed the game more than Steph Curry has. And I talked about this previously. When I coached youth basketball for a few years, it was at the height of Steph Curry when every kid wanted to pull up and start just shooting threes. That's the type of impact he had, where everybody just thought they was a shooter. And to this day, you see the league now. Teams shoot 40 and 50 threes every night. Like, that's just the norm now. So Steph, in terms of changing the game and having an impact on the game, absolutely, he's in the conversation. But if we're talking GOATs, I do agree that some of that criteria has to be, how could you affect the game in more ways than just being able to score? And so the other guys we've mentioned, I think, did it in a different way. The accolades are going to be crazy for Steph, but as I've said multiple times, Mike, LeBron, Kareem, Tim Duncan, Magic Johnson, to me, that's the top five. And then after that five, Hakeem, Bird, what those guys did in the game. I don't think Steph is ahead. Right. I don't think Steph is ahead of those guys. So Kobe, Shaq, like, we can keep going down the list. The guys I'm mentioning are I think, just as accomplished and even more accomplished than Steph is. So to say Steph would just jump all those guys and immediately go into the conversation with Mike, Bron, and Kareem, that's a little disrespectful. You can't just jump the line that way.
Yep. Scoopoo says the fine GOAT convos
top
is
five.
You just said it right there.
Yeah, top five.
You can't, if you're not even in the top five, you can't be in the GOAT conversation.
Yeah. That's a fact. And we throw that term. When I say we, I mean everyone who talks sports. We throw that term around way too loosely now, because now it's solely become focused on the GOAT. No, you can be a great player. You can be a generational talent and not be a GOAT.
Yeah.
GOAT identifies one. That's why Trip and myself started that exercise of saying we're not just going to name one. We're going to name the best at every position, and then it becomes that top five. And those are the GOATs of our game. The best point guard, best shooting guard, best small forward, best power forward, best center that we've ever seen, and you define it that way. Because to just put one singular guy, even now, I think we get so caught up in a Mike Braun debate that it's disrespectful to everything that Kareem did and Tim Duncan did and Hakeem and all these other great players.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. But yeah, you can't even be in the GOAT conversation if you're not top five.
You got to be top five.
Not top five, and again, he still has years left on his career. But what you would have to accomplish as far as individual accolades to really move into the top five, well, one, because I'm gonna tell you right now, those other guys that we listed have multiple all defensive appearances. Steph ain't getting no all defensive appearances at this point in his career, let alone a defensive player of the year. So that already is going to cancel him out. Now, maybe it is possible. MVPs are still possible, but again, in order to start jumping the ladder, if you don't have the defensive side of the basketball, Steph would need at least like 3 more MVPs to even get to that point.
I think right now, what Steph is doing is really just solidifying the resume.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if there are any more championships in his future. I don't think there's any more MVPs in the future. But now when you start piling the accolades up as to where he's going to finish in scoring all the time, right? And scoring all the time and all-star game appearances and all NBA teams. Now you just start solidifying a resume where it's just so impressive that we know he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Fame. That goes without saying. Right. Now it's like, can I get into the top 10 conversation?
That's where we're at with Steph. He's solidifying his spot in the top 10 right now with the accolades that he's going to accumulate for the rest of his career. That's where we at with it. Wherever he lands in the top 10, I don't know if, you know what I'm saying, how close to the top 5 he can even get. He ain't going to crack the top 5. But the more accolades you get, if you add another ring,
the stronger the resume, right?
MVP, it strengthens the resume. You know what I'm saying? Still won't be able to crack the top 5, but maybe you could get the 9 spot, we get the 8 spot, maybe, you know. So we shall see. Shout out to Pooh, man. How you been, Pooh? Where is Tim Duncan? I got Tim Duncan in my top 7. I don't know where you got him, Eric, but for me, I got him in my top 7.
Well, when we did our rankings of each position, I got him top 5 because I got him as the best power forward whatever.
Oh well, yeah. Well,
I got him.
You know what?
Yeah. So I got him as top 5. The big fundamental. I think we get caught up in the whole Kobe conversation a lot, rightfully so, because the way he passed kind of really, because of the way he passed, we started admiring his work so much more. But let's call it what it is. It wasn't really the Kobe era. It was the Tim Duncan era. Tim Duncan was more successful during that era. And Tim Duncan, to me, was probably the most complete big man we had ever seen in terms of, you want to talk impact on both sides of the court. If Tim Duncan wanted to every night, he could have easily went 30 and 10. He could have done all the same things that Joker did now. He was such a team player that he just allowed everything to flow through the game, and then he took over when he needed to. But Tim Duncan was amazing.
Absolutely. Pooh says it's been a long time, and can Giannis become the best power forward ever when done? Okay, so I will say this. Giannis is young enough to build the resume to where he could be. However, he has a long way to go to catch Tim Duncan's resume. But he is young enough to do it.
He's young enough to do it.
And he's already
it's going to be tough because accolades wise, like numbers wise, he's going to have a chance to surpass some of his numbers. But watching him play, you know how skilled Tim Duncan was in comparison to Giannis. And no disrespect to Giannis, it's not even close in terms of skill. So he would have to be far more accomplished than Tim Duncan for him to surpass Tim Duncan. Like, Tim Duncan won 5 NBA championships. To me, Giannis would have to win like 7 or 8 for us to be like, all right, you were better than Duncan. Because in terms of skill, he's never going to be better than Tim Duncan. So the accomplishments got to be so much better that it overlaps the actual skill.
Yes. Yeah. So listen, let's put respect on Tim Duncan's name. I love when I get to tell this story, but my cousins actually built the basketball court that Tim Duncan learned how to play basketball on in St. Croix. So we're gonna always put respect on Tim Duncan's name. They saying Jason Tatum's resume at his age is unreal. Jason Tatum's I don't know what resume Jason Tatum really got outside of being an NBA champion and All-Star a couple times. What resume does he have? Because he ain't got no individual.
Pooh, we got a lot of love for you, and we appreciate that you rock with us. But it's starting to sound like you run the Jason Tatum fan club. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Jason Tatum's resume is unreal at his age because he came into the league at 19. Damn near every good player who came in at that age has a really good resume by the time they're 26.
But what resume does he have?
He got the one championship. He got the gold medal. Come on,
he didn't even play.
Trip, they're gonna start saying you hating on him. Trip, they're gonna start saying that you hating on the kid.
Yo, I can't. He's a Blue Devil. I can't hate on him. He's a Blue Devil. But we gotta call him.
Jason Tatum's a great player though.
He is.
Jason Tatum's a great player, but We said this after they won the championship when I said let's stop already trying to like cement resumes. The guy ain't even been in the league 10 years. Give him 10, 12, 15 years before we start talking about the resume.
Pooh, when I say he didn't play, I mean he wasn't getting minutes like that. Didn't you remember the whole controversy with Steve Kerr when they was talking about?
He's 26.
Game?
He's had 2 finals appearances. He's been to the Eastern Conference Finals about 6 times. I want to say 5 or 6 times he's been to the Eastern Conference Finals, and he's been All NBA first team. I don't know if he got a lot of All NBA first teams though. I could double check. He might have 2 or 3. I don't think he's got a bunch of All NBA first teams.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's got no scoring titles. He's got no MVPs. He's got no Defensive Player of the Year awards. I
don't even think he's ever made an All Defensive play. I don't even think he's made an All NBA All Defensive team.
Nope. And he's a 3-time All NBA first team, 1 time on the third team. He has no All defensive teams up here. So outside of him being a champion, which is also a team award, he didn't even get the Finals MVP, so that knocked him out. He didn't get the Eastern Conference MVP because obviously those went to Brown.
He got the Eastern Conference MVP in 2022 when they lost to Golden State in the finals. He did get that one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but 3 first team NBA. He's a 6-time All-Star. It's a good resume, Pooh. I'm not knocking him.
He's not even Rookie of the Year.
Nah, he wasn't Rookie of the Year.
Nah, if you wasn't Rookie of the Year, you ain't had no good resume.
I just think it's crazy. Like I said, the resume sounds great because of his age, but most guys who came in the league at that age have had like Braun's resume was better than that at that age, right?
Way better than
Kobe's resume at 26 was better. Like that's what I'm saying. Like he started at 19, so he had an opportunity to build up a resume that a lot of guys really don't get at 26. Only the guys who like came in had an opportunity to play right away, be an impact player right away. He's a good player, very good player, Pooh. But like let's relax with the resume talk with Jason Tatum.
Yeah, that I don't know about that one. Let me go back up the timeline. Let me get to these other NBA questions. Confident Kevin Durant carries his Suns to the playoffs. Who said that? Who said they was confident? I don't think nobody said they was confident right now. Like they're not even in the play-in.
I think he's asking if we're confident. He's asking us if we're confident.
Oh, okay. Because I'm about to say no, we're not. They're not even in the play-in right now. Like, no, I'm not confident. If that was the case, Kevin Durant would have had them up in the standings. They've been together, him and Booker. Like at the end of the day, you have 2 superstars and an all-star caliber player in Bill. I'm obviously, we didn't have them as legitimate champion contenders because there's so many holes in that roster. However, you got enough on that team where you should at least be in the play-in right now. You're not even there. You on the outside looking in. And that's with Anthony Davis and now Kyrie Irving is both out. You ain't even getting yet to the play-in. I don't have no confidence in Kevin Durant carrying the Suns to the playoffs. And even if they did, they're going to be out in the first round. I'm sorry.
Let's play a little game, Trip. Today's March 10th, right? March 10th. The Suns got 14 games left. As of today, they're a game and a half behind the 10th seed. These are the Phoenix Suns' next 10 games. You can hold up a finger for every game you think they're going to win.
Okay.
They got Memphis tonight at Memphis.
Nope.
They got Houston at Houston after that.
Nope.
They got the Kings in Phoenix.
I'll give them that one.
They got to go to LA. They got to go to LA to play the Lakers.
That's possible because Braun won't be there, so I'll give them that one. I'll even
so
give
maybe 2 so far.
So we had 2 and 2.
All right. Then they come home for a 5-game homestand. They get Toronto at home. That should be a win. They get the Bulls at home. That should be a win.
Okay.
Then they got to play Cleveland, Milwaukee, and Boston.
Loss. Go ahead.
And then the last game of those 10 is at Minnesota.
Probably going to be a loss too.
So we're looking at a team that's
500. I was
about to say 4-6, maybe 5-5 in the next 10 games.
Yeah.
Right? Basically 500. Out of those 10 teams, every one of those teams has a better record aside from 2, aside from Toronto and Chicago. Everybody else has a better record and is a higher seed. You got Memphis, who's the 4th seed. You got Houston, who's the 5th seed. You got the Kings, who are the 9th seed. You got the Lakers, who are the 2nd seed. Take out Toronto and Chicago. We know they're not good. But then Cleveland, who's the number 1 seed. Bucks, who are the 4th seed. Celtics, who are the 2nd seed. Minnesota, who's the 7th seed.
Phoenix, and if Brown wasn't hurt, they was losing that Lakers game too.
Right.
So
I don't know if Phoenix goes 5-5 in that 10-game stretch, I don't know if that's going to be enough for them to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, like I said, they're under 500. They're 4 games under 500. They got 14 games left. They got to get high. I know they're only a game and a half behind Dallas, and that's going to help them because we know Kyrie is out for the rest of the season, and we know AD is limited. So it's very possible Dallas slips. So if you're asking me, am I confident that they might possibly make the playing game? Possibly. But this schedule isn't easy. This isn't like they got some cupcakes in front of them where they just going to get fatter on the cupcakes and then make the playoffs. They're going to probably struggle their next 10 games, and they're going to have to really sweat it out to make just a playing game. And once they get there, I don't think they advance beyond that. So I'm going to say I don't have any confidence in Kevin Durant. Also, the fact that there have already been media reports that have come out that the Suns are willing to work with Kevin Durant on a trade this offseason. He damn near is already punting on the season. He basically saying, I'm out of here. I've already spoke to the movers. They could be at my house the day after the season ends. Yeah. Let's just work on the trade. He has no confidence in even staying in Phoenix, let alone making the playoffs. So I don't have any confidence.
Yeah, why would he even go hard?
Why should I have confidence?
School pool. I don't know if this comment was for this or for the Tatum conversation, but either way, please don't compare Jason Tatum to LeBron James.
I saw this go up during the Tatum conversation. Yes, Bron missed the playoffs the first few years, but go look back at the roster that Jason Tatum played with compared to what Bron played with. If we're going to play that game in terms of missing the playoffs, Jason Tatum wasn't drafted to be the franchise there. Jason Tatum was actually an afterthought because that team was built around Kyrie and Gordon Hayward when Tatum got there. So Tatum was not expected to be a guy who was an impact player right away. Bron went to a situation where not only was he the guy, there wasn't anything else. The second best player on those early Bron teams was what? Ilgauskas?
Yeah. And
we're not comparing the same thing.
Yeah, and Bron was rookie of the year, and by his second season, he was already in 6th place in the MVP voting. So we that's not even gonna compare Jason Tatum to LeBron. Like, we're not gonna do that.
I mean, by the time Bron was 26, Bron was already a multiple-time MVP. He had taken his team to the finals. Not only was he all NBA, like I said, we're talking a lot more accolades for Bron at that point. So I don't think it's a fair conversation to even have with Jason Tatum and Bron at that point in their careers.
Like, Bron was a back-to-back MVP before 26.
So it was. That's what I'm saying. It's not even the same conversation.
Let's move on from that one. Ron says, what's crazy is Zion Williamson with no media coverage anymore is balling his ass off. Eric, I was saying that the other night. I was watching the game against the Lakers, and I was like, yo, Zion actually, he looks very, like, fit. He looks slim. Like, he trimmed down a lot. He looked like he was actually hooping, but ain't nobody talking about Zion. Like, he might have messed around and missed his moment because ain't nobody even talking about him. But he's actually, you know what I'm saying, he's looking pretty good.
I mean, because we don't talk about teams that's 17 and 48.
That's true too.
You can't be 31 games under 500. What do we?
You got to point this, sir. You got to point this.
Yeah, I don't.
All right, let me go to Miguel. LeBron James confronted Stephen A. Smith at the Lakers game about his son. Thoughts on it? And wasn't LeBron the one that tweeted Bronny better than half the NBA? Yeah, I mean, come on, bro. You can't be out here doing that. Listen, at the end of the day, see, it was one thing when Bronny was in college, when Bronny was in high school. He's in the NBA now. He's fair game. He's open season. And I get it. It sucks because the media is not going to compare him to his counterparts that came into the draft with the guys that were drafted around him in the second round. Everything is going to be LeBron James kind of a thing, especially because people like to put the narrative out that you're only in the NBA because of nepotism. So it's very unfortunate for him, but Stephen A is doing his job, and that's why Stephen A is one of the best in the business. That's why he gets paid the way he does. And you know, I don't even have kids, so I can't even tell you from like the father standpoint. But I can tell you, just for being overprotective of like my nephews, all right. But at the end of the day, Stephen A's doing his job, man. You got to let that go.
I thought it was super corny of LeBron to do it. One, to the second part of that question where he said what LeBron tweeted out, right? You brought this unnecessary attention on your son. But two, he has Stephen A's direct information. He could speak to Stephen A at any point if he had an issue with something that Stephen A said. So to do it in front of the media on the court in that way, it was done intentionally. It was done to embarrass Stephen A and to flex. And that's why I thought was corny about it, because LeBron, come on, we know you and Stephen A have had multiple conversations away from cameras and away from other people. If there was at any point you felt Stephen A crossed the line, you felt what he said was wrong or was hurtful, you could have called him and spoke to him, or even that day, you could have spoke to him before you even hit the court and said, man, let me have a word with you over here and let's clear the air on some things. Yeah, let me pull you to the side and let's clear the air on some things before we move any further. But to do it in that fashion on the court when everybody's watching, that's what I thought was wrong with LeBron. Because at the end of the day, what is Stephen A supposed to say, right? All we see, LeBron, who's the bigger figure, is standing there, and you could tell it's an intense conversation. So it already looks like I'm sunning you now. It looks like I'm punking you in front of everybody. So what is Stephen A supposed to do? You know what I'm saying? It ain't nothing you could do. Even if I bark back at you, I still look wrong. Yeah. So it was. I thought it was super corny of LeBron, and he brought this attention on himself. And this is one of the things that I highlighted when Bronny was drafted there, when I said I would have preferred Bronny to go somewhere else and not be under the attention and the shadow of his dad, because it is unfair criticism of Bronny. But you know what? But it's also unfair coverage. A second-round pick should not be talked about this much. But because he is the son of a legend and playing on that team, and then every now and then gets actual minutes, we're forced to talk about Bronny, as opposed to if he played in Utah or he played in Charlotte and was on a bad team that was just allow him to get minutes and get some shot ups, we wouldn't have the same conversation because we would know he's just a young kid developing. But now you got him in the mix of a team that's trying to compete for the playoffs and compete for possibly championship aspirations. I don't think they are, but that's what they think they are. And now you're giving a kid minutes. Like you said, it speaks to nepotism, but it's unfair, man. And Braun should have handled that way better.
Yeah, I agree. Shout out to Kev. That's one of our crew members when we were over at Brick. Shout out to the whole RTS family, man. Y'all know we love y'all. We appreciate y'all, all the work y'all put in for us over the years. Let me see. We was having this talk in our chats. When was Kobe Bryant last the best player in the NBA? I said 2012, maybe around 2010-ish. I felt when he tore his Achilles, he was still a top player. Top player, yes. I don't know about best in the NBA, but I guess you could say around that time. Yeah.
To me, Braun took over the title in 2011, 2012. Braun's second season in Miami is when he officially took over the title. So Kobe won his last championship in 2009. I think Kobe still was the best player in 2010. And then by that second year in Miami, Braun took over. So I would say by 2011, 2012 at the latest is when Kobe was still the best player in the league. To me, and I still always say Braun's those last 3 years in Miami, that's the best version of Braun. The winning the 2 MVPs, the back-to-back. But I just thought that after they lost that year, when they lost to Dallas that next year, I still will always say that performance he had in Boston, Game 6, when they're down 3-2 and it looks like it's all falling apart, and he goes in, I believe he had like a 46-8-8 type game. To me, that's still Braun's greatest performance because of what was at stake. Can't hear you, Trip.
Oh, no, I said Kobe won his last title in 2010.
Yeah, that was a 2009-2010 season because the 2010-2011 season was Dallas.
Yep. All right, let me see here. Let me come back up. The Warriors just keep rolling since Jimmy Butler joined them. They like 11-1. To me, they are a solid big man from getting to the finals. Yeah, they hooping. They are hooping right now. Jimmy Butler, and we said Jimmy Butler was going to be a great addition for them, and it is what it is. Yeah, I do agree with that statement as well. I think them and the Lakers are both in that same boat where I think they're a solid big man away from being legitimate contenders.
I laugh because I mean it's true, but where they gonna find that big man? Because
Too late now.
that's what I'm saying. To say, we gotta appreciate the statement, but to say they're a solid big man from getting to the final, they not getting a big man, so I guess they not going to the finals then.
Yes, that's
not. It ain't no trade to be made. It ain't no big man just lingering around waiting to be signed. They are who they are at this point. They're a good team though, and I think they're going to be a scary matchup for certain teams because of the Steph Jimmy dynamic. But ultimately, to get over the hump of the Western Conference, you're going to need a big, and they just don't have it.
Yeah. Let me go to Mikhail's next question. Thunder just keep on rolling regular season wise. These boys have passed every test. SGA might be putting the final touches on MVP, even though Jokic still coming strong. Pause first and foremost. Yes, and I love because obviously we know Jokic had that big night. I think the game before that, and everybody was now back on the Jokic for MVP train. And Shea came right back the next night, put up a 40 piece on him, and said, "Nah, this my award. I was supposed to get it last year, but I'm definitely gonna get it this year. You ain't getting that, Jokic. That's mine." And I love that he did that.
I think Shea solidified it. Unless something drastic happens over the next 2.5 weeks, it's Shea's award.
You know how it is. You know.
I know, but
see some BS before.
I'm gonna tell you this: Shea and them boys got a big game on Wednesday against Boston. Right now, Boston and OKC, in terms of betting odds, are number 1 and number 2 in Vegas. If Shea puts on a performance in that one, I think he had 36 the first time he played Boston. If he puts on another performance like that, you could seal it up right now. Just start writing his name on the trophy and get it ready for him, because it's going to take something very drastic at this point for him not to win MVP. They could lose every game, I think, for the next week and a half and still would be in first place in the West. So they got such a lead out there in the West that they're going to have the number 1 seed. And with him being the best player on there and the numbers he's been putting up, 3 straight 40-point games, the last guy to do that for them was Russell Westbrook during his MVP season. Shea has been phenomenal. I take great pride in acknowledging that I had Shea as one of the elite guys 2 or 3 years ago before other people really started talking about him. And I've said here several times, I think he is the best guard in the league. I have him ahead of Luka, and I think he's proven it. So to me, it's Shea.
Well, it's looking like he's definitely gonna get the MVP before Luka gets it. So you got a valid point there, brother. Hey fellas, Lakers and their fans have been on a high with Lakers winning games against not great teams. They played the Celtics, and you see the difference. Luka had a big game, but struggled with Brown. Actually, the Lakers been balling against everybody. They ain't just been bad teams. They just shut down Jokic a couple of 2 weeks ago.
They beat Denver. They beat the Knicks. They had some quality. Yeah, they had some really good wins. That's what I'm saying. And we talked about that stretch of 5 home games. Shortly after the Luka trade. I don't agree with that, Amani, because I think the Lakers have played really well against everybody. I mean, obviously they played the Celtic team, who's the best team in the league, and they struggled in that game. But a lot of teams struggle against the Celtics.
Exactly. So I think they're hooping against everybody right now. They beat the Timberwolves. You know what I'm saying? So they're beating the teams that are in contention right now.
Playoff caliber teams.
So you can't say that. But they obviously did struggle against Boston, and Braun goes down in that game. We're gonna get to Scoop Hoop's question now. Talk about Braun's injury with him out maybe 2 weeks, and Luka hold down the fort. Luka was hobbling too. Hold down the fort to stay in second place. I don't know, but I don't see them falling out of the top 5 within the next week and a half, 2 weeks. They got Brooklyn right now. They do got a couple of tough games though, but then they got San Antonio in there. So they do, and they got a couple of tough games, but then they got a patch where they got Chicago, Orlando, Indiana, Chicago again. So I think they'll be okay. Like I said, I don't think they fall out of the top 5, but we shall see.
I wouldn't expect them to fall out of the top 5. There's a 5-game difference between them at number 2 and Golden State at number 6. So I don't think it'll be that drastic of a fall off. But they could easily find themselves at the 4 to 5 seed because there's only a 2-game difference between them and Houston, who's at number 5. So that's where the stretch gets a little tough. And you also, if you're the Lakers, you got to be careful because Luka was hurt, prior to the trade, and he was still working himself back in shape. And if you kind of push too hard on Luka to carry the load right here, pause, you could now deal with another injury that could really set you back heading into the playoffs. So they've got to manage this really well. They got to find a way to stay afloat. They got to stay within that top 4 because then they at least get some favorable matchups. I think once they fall out of the top 4, things get a little tougher with road matchups. But if they can find a way to hold the fort till LeBron gets back, they should be fine.
Yeah, you're right, Ron. These games will be tough without LeBron because he's found like a whole new resurgence playing alongside of Luka, and he's able to do so much more. Especially, on the defensive side, the Lakers defense has been exceptional, and you would have thought without Anthony Davis there, it would be a huge drop, but the defense has been consistent. Since then, they I believe they're like the top 2 in defensive rankings. Since the trade, anyway. So but again, it will be tough without Braun, but I think they'll be good. Again, I don't see them falling out of the top 5 before Braun gets back.
It's a tough stretch, man. They got 2 games against Denver and 2 games against Milwaukee. And those are tough games because those teams are battling to secure their playoff spots as well.
Exactly. Brandon Chambers says Charles Barkley recently said all the media talks about is Warriors and Lakers and these Jordan Braun debates. Is he right? He said OKC and Cavs been balling all year and don't get the right love. Okay, here's the thing. He is right, but that's how it's always been. The superstars, the teams in the big markets, they get to talk. That just is what it is. It's all about selling newspapers. And what's the biggest headline going to be? It's going to be something with LeBron. It's going to be something with Steph. It's going to be something with KD. Before we up here talking about Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers in first place. It just is what it is. That's the media. We go for the hot topic. It is, it is what it is.
It's clickbait.
But yeah.
Clickbait. They know that most people will tune in or click on the clip if you're talking about certain teams. But Charles Barkley, if you're going to say that about large media outlets like ESPN, like Fox Sports, you got to say the same thing about TNT because most Thursday nights is the same teams that you guys run over and over. So TNT does the same thing, right? And they got the Lakers on Thursday night again.
So what are we talking about?
Right. When this game was booked on TNT, they didn't know that the Lakers were going to be the number 2 seed. They didn't know they was going to have Luka. This game was booked before the season even started. So you didn't know they was going to have Luka in the number 2 seed, and yet you still wanted them on this Thursday and mid to late March against Milwaukee. So TNT's guilty of it as well. All networks are guilty of it. And I hate to say it, our supporters are guilty of it as well because there have been plenty of times where Trip and I have said, we're not talking about LeBron tonight, and you guys will ask us about LeBron.
Exactly.
So there's just certain teams in every sport that are a lightning rod. The Lakers are one of those teams in the NBA. In the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys are one of those teams. In Major League Baseball, the New York Yankees are one of those teams. That's just the way it is, man.
Exactly. Let me see here. Scoop Hoop. Shout out to Scoop Hoop. Steph Curry joins the 25,000 point club. Impressive to me considering first part of his career. He missed a ton of games. I mean, anybody getting 25,000 points is impressive because what we said about between 3,000 and 4,000 players all time in the NBA. And I would probably say 3,000 of them ain't cracked 25,000. So That's a hell of an impressive feat for Steph Curry. It doesn't surprise me with the amount of threes he hits. He is the greatest shooter of all time. So they were saying, but yeah, shout out to Steph. Again, another accolade added to the resume to solidify his spot in the top 10.
I think it's a great accomplishment. And Scoop Hoop, you're absolutely right. When you look back and think about all the games he missed early on and how he was viewed as an injury-prone player. And even after their run with Kevin Durant, remember, he missed some significant time those first 2 seasons after that as well. So for him to be in that club is very impressive. And again, it's just adding on more accolades.
Exactly. Let me see. Ron Charles. What's y'all thoughts on the Bucks? Playing good basketball. They always play good basketball. We just gotta see what they do in the playoffs. That's all. Can him and Dame get the job done? I am, looking forward to seeing what they can do with Kuzma. They do have to be healthy though, going into the playoffs. But again, any team that features Giannis and then we're gonna throw Dame up in there too is going to have a chance. But they have to get it done.
They're a good team. I think they're going to be a dangerous first-round team. As I highlighted last week, I don't think anybody really wants to see them in the first round, knowing that Dame and Giannis could each be going over 30 points a game in a series. But as evident by last night's game against the Cavs, they're not good enough to beat the upper echelon teams. There's been a lot made about the Knicks' record against the best teams. The Bucks' record is even worse because the Bucks have not beat the Cavs, the Celtics, or the Knicks at all this year. And those are the three teams that are in front of them. So I think the Bucks are good enough to win a first-round matchup. Depending on who they play in the second round, they might be able to put a scare in them, but they just don't play enough defense. And unless Kuzma takes another step up, Kuzma's been pretty good for them, but unless he takes another step up, they're not going to be good enough to beat Boston or Cleveland in the series.
Yeah. So there you go. Shout out to Will Gordon. What it do, baby? What's going on, man? Oh, man. All right. Well, listen. So we done ran through these comments. We're a little bit into overtime right now. Eric, you want to hit us with a final thought?
Man, as always, we appreciate you guys for locking with us. Y'all could be anywhere in the world, man, but y'all here with us. We greatly appreciate it. Yesterday, Trip, you posted it, and I appreciate you posting it. It was an old clip from one of my first sit-downs with Gene, the big homie Gene Deal, because yesterday was the anniversary of one of the greatest MCs of all time, passing away tragically, Notorious B.I.G. And then keep, lock in with us, man. We back to it. The Sanchez Show, we're going to be getting back to Friday Night Lives real soon. And, of course, we'll be back next week. Real Fans, Real Talk.
Yes, sir. I mean, Ron, he just answered the question just now.
We get back to it. The work schedules and everything, get a little tough, but we're going to get back to it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, man, I'm just going to say thank y'all, man. I truly appreciate y'all rocking with us every week. Y'all motivate us so much, and we truly appreciate all the support that you guys give us for the week in, week out basis. We got some long timers now. Y'all been rocking with us for a little while now. I love seeing that. Shout out to the ladies, Pooh and Imani, keep checking in with us. Ron, rocking with us. Tyson, Miguel, shout out to y'all, man. Y'all been rocking with us for a minute, and we definitely appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? Big shout out to Will Gordon as well. Make sure you guys are subscribed to all our social media, Instagram, Twitter at Real Fan Talk, Facebook.com/Real Fans Real Talk. And of course, subscribe to that YouTube channel, YouTube.com/For the Fans Productions. And if you're not in New York City on Thursday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. and you can't watch us on Verizon 43, do not worry. All you got to do is go to that website, realfansrealtalk.com, and you can watch from anywhere in the world. Just click that red button on the homepage. And while you're online, make sure you subscribe to the two best podcasts moving. That's the Sanchez Show podcast and the Real Fans Real Talk podcast. With that being said, for myself, Trip Young, and my brother, my co-host, Eric Sanchez, a.k.a. Legend in Two Games, we up out of here. Peace.
This is Deion Grant from the New York Giants, Super Bowl champ, and you're watching Real Fans Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe the can.
This is Real Fans Real Talk. Real Fans Real Talk. We as real as you thought.